Hi guys, it's Ahan. I'm here reviewing this book, A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bryson. Now, Bill Bryson's a very famous Anglo-American author. He's written mostly travel books about his life in England and America, and he's also written some books about the English language. Now, in the book he states that he was interested in science when he was a school child, but he feels like the way he was presented the concepts in school kind of drained that curiosity out of him. So here he was, an adult, still curious about how the universe worked. To quote him in the book, "I didn't know what a proton was, or protein. Didn't know a quark from a quasar. Didn't know how an atom was put together, and couldn't imagine by what means anyone deduced such a thing. Suddenly I had a powerful, uncharacteristic urge to know something about these matters and to understand how people figured them out." So, he started talking to professors all across the world, and basically the culmination of that is this book. So, in the book, he starts off with explaining the Big Bang and how our universe formed. Then he goes on to switching more into how do we know how the universe works. This is a primary feature of this book, that he spends equal time, if not more time, in explaining how do we know the facts as the facts themselves. So he starts off with the Big Bang and how the universe works, and he talks about how people have measured the expanding universe, and he talks about Newton and how he deduced our laws of motion. Then he moves all the way through. He talks about how the solar system formed, how Earth formed, how cold the planet is today. He introduces some basic geology, and then he goes on to biology, the history of life, how life works, and then the book leads all the way to us, how we evolved from apes to modern thinking humans. So, all throughout that way, he explains how we know how the universe works, not only the science behind it, but also the narrative stories behind the people who make these discoveries. He profiles well-known people like Newton and Einstein, but he also talks about people which we might not know as much about, like Lyell, Dalton, Rosalind Franklin, who are mostly unknown to the public, but made just as much of a contribution, if not more, as Einstein and Newton. I would say it's a wonderfully written book, and I'd recommend it to anyone who wants to have a basic understanding of science. Now, some things to note. It's called A Short History of Nearly Everything. He's basically trying to explain 13.7 billion years of history leading up to us in 478 pages. So, this book is really more of a survey of these scientific concepts than anything which goes deep into these. If you want to go deep into physics or geology or a specific topic, it's best to pick a specific work, and never fear, he has a bibliography of all the research he did, so that can be a great place to start looking for research. That being said, it gives you an excellent feeling for how everything fits together, how we know, what we know, what we don't know, and how it all connects, how biology connects with how the Earth works, or how chemistry tells us the way stars will form. It may not be very deep into each topic, but it connects everything really well. So that's what I like about it. Who should read this book? I would say that if you're like the kind of person who was curious about it, who's still really curious about it, doesn't really have any background in it, doesn't really want to get into the math and all, then this is a great start for you. It really gets you caught up on science as it is today. And it's delivered in a very intriguing manner. If you're in one field of science and you want to know a little bit more of something else, it's a great start, but it won't, as I said, it won't get you deep into a specific subject. Now, this book was written in 2003, and science progresses really fast, of course, so you'll find that most of the stuff in this book is correct, but expect some of the stuff like he used to say, whether the Higgs boson exists is a mystery. Now we know in 2016 that we have discovered the Higgs boson. So that kind of stuff is useful to know, but easily, like, this is a great place to start reading the news about science and be like, oh, I know where we're coming from. I myself have a little bit of a background in science, so one thing which was disappointing to me is that there are some topics which he kind of avoided altogether. So, for example, there was string theory. When he was getting to the point in physics where he was talking about string theory, he kind of avoided saying, this is really so bizarre that it's really beyond anything we should talk about. And I get that he had to fit a lot of information in a short space. I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't discuss it further. And this kind of thing applies to several other things. So don't expect to get anywhere near deep. I think, in terms of math, you get like one equation, which is, well, you see the equation for gravity, you see E equals mc squared, and then there's a lot of scientific notation. So, when it comes to math, it's very accessible. He's used to writing narratives. So I'd say that he wrote it in a very narrative sense. You see the scientists who made discoveries as very human, with very interesting and not humorous attributes, which is something which I really like. He makes it humorous in certain points. And overall, as a science explainer, he did a really good job, I think. And one of the things I think, one of the reasons I think this is that usually in general science books, you have scientists at the top of their field trying to explain this stuff to you. They cannot sympathize with the level of knowledge we have. However, Bill Bryson, he started off as the same level as all of us. He didn't know anything. This was his journey of discovery. So I think because he comes from the same place where we are at, since he basically went on the same journey which we are going on by reading this book, I think he made it much easier for us to make the science accessible. Overall, I definitely recommend this book to anyone who's interested in science and how the world works. It's a great stepping stone to learning much more if you don't really know much already, and count on it to be humorous while explaining, but definitely more of a survey than a concrete introduction to every single field. Thanks for watching.